Have you experienced the awesome power of the Panasonic Real 3DO system? Obviously.
Presenting 3DO, the most advanced home gaming system in the universe. It's time to put away your toys.
3DO from Panasonic, Gold Star, and Creative Labs. A new low price and free games.
Mind-blowing graphics of Panasonic Real 3DO. 3DO.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the one and only 3DO podcast on the internet. That is the 3DO experience. I'm Thrak, and joined as always is Bill. How you doing, Bill?
Oh, hey, Thrak. I'm doing all right. All right as I can be. Summer's finally over.
Yeah, it was cool here for a few days, but now it's kind of hot again.
So up here, it's like freezing in the morning, and then it's like really hot in the afternoon. So it's just kind of like typical New England shit right now. Yeah. It's annoying here because like it would be like nice and cool in the morning, but then by the end of the day, it's like, oh God, why am I like sweating? I hate this. But you know, that's the autumn for you, I guess. Yeah. So before we get into the game for this week, Blade Force, but it was today, right? When Sony decided to finally announce the PS5 Pro. It's real. It exists. It has it now has 3 shave bits in the eyebrow as opposed to 1. And it has probably one of the strangest reveal videos I've ever seen, because to me, they're really trying to show how much more powerful this thing is. And yet I can't tell a fucking difference. No.
Can you?
Not at all. I mean, granted, I was at work when this all went down, so like I just kind of saw the reactions, and I kind of watched it during my break, but like my phone's quality is kind of shit regardless. So I was kind of like, like, okay.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. It just feels like they're just. It's like it's 4 years on, and it just looks like it's like, yeah, that's just what a PS5 does. You know, like they're introducing their form of DLSS into it. Sure. It has more teraflops or something stupid or whatever, right? But the part that everybody is talking about, which is funny because I made a tweet about it, is that the pricing. So the base PS5 Pro is $700. So it's basically a $200 to $300 upgrade, though it's digital only, right? If you want the stand and a detachable disc drive, you know, if you want your Atari Jaguar CD on this thing, you have to pay an extra, I think like $200 for the both of them. So it drives the cost up to like $800.
I saw that and I was just like, how the fuck is a Blu-ray drive that expensive?
Like it's not coming with the stand. Like what? That blows my mind. That's a piece of fucking plastic.
I know.
You just shove it in the box. Who the fuck cares, right? Like my Series X has a stand, you know, just like the bottom of it has that kind of round bit, but it's like kind of baked into the console, right? And Blu-ray drives are not expensive. It's more just the fact that they know they can sell that thing for like $150 or whatever it is. And people will buy like the specific casing and like just jut it on to the PS5, which, to be fair, the original PS5, that disc drive looks like it was thrown in at the last minute.
Oh yeah, it's the weirdest
that they went, oh shit, people are going to want a disc drive on this thing. Just throw it on the side or whatever.
See, my theory here is that this is their way of, they're trying to force like the end of physical games. I'm getting the feeling.
I mean, that's kind of what's been going on for the last few years anyways. I mean, I think when PC went all digital, I knew that like consoles were going to be close behind.
I know it's similar to like music though, and like a lot of these things, like you're going to have the stubborn assholes like me who are going to fight to the bitter end. So
I think gaming, it's different because at least with say movies or music or even books, there are a lot of accessible ways of enjoying those mediums without having the physical
product, you know?
Mm.
Like take music for example. Yeah, physical media for music still exists. It'll always have like that enthusiast market. So there will be a reason for that to still exist to some degree, right? But if you just want to listen to, I don't know, like fucking Meshuggah or something, I don't know why it's the first band I thought of. You can find them. Like you can just go online and find them, right? Pretty easy going. If I want to watch, say, Demolition Man, like I did last week, I could just find it, you know? But with a video game, especially with how the copyright laws are for video games these days, it is not that accessible. Like in theory, if you want to play Columns on the Game Gear, if you went the complete legal route, you buy a used Game Gear on the market, and you spend however much that costs, and then you buy a copy of this, you pop it in there, and pray to God that it works.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the thing. There are ways around it, of course, but it hasn't been accepted by the industry yet.
Mm.
So it's a different thing. But like, yeah, I get them wanting to get rid of physical media because they make more money on a digital game. You know, like if you buy Astrobot, is it just called Astrobot?
I believe so.
Okay, if you buy Astrobot digitally on the PlayStation 5, Sony gets all that money.
Mm-hmm.
If you buy it physically, again, the same price, they have to give a cut to the retailer, or the retailer gets a cut of it or something like that. So I get it, but yeah, like gaming, it's people really hold on to their physical media. It holds more of a special connection to them. And in a lot of ways, it's the only way to play that game is that physical copy. Because while game re-releases are becoming more and more common these days, which I think is a good thing, like people tend to go like, oh, constant, ports and remasters or whatever. I think it's a good thing that these all are coming back, because now with digital libraries, they can become, you can just have them. You don't have to worry about it later on, right? Even still, people like their physical copies, even if physical copies kind of don't really matter anymore, which is a whole other topic. But yeah, this thing, it's priced as a fucking 3DO, man, and it somehow has less games than the 3DO did at launch.
It's somehow,
how the fuck did that happen?
So what's hilarious is like when I saw this, a lot of people were making the whole like the classic Kaz Hirai $599 $599 like thing.
Yeah.
I immediately thought 3DO. But,
that's immediately what I thought, was like, really, we're doing the 3DO pricing again?
I was joking with people because I was like, wow, you actually are more expensive than a launch 3DO. What an achievement.
Yeah, and the reaction online has been about what we've expected. People saying like, what the fuck's the point of this? Basically, there's no reason for it. Unless you're one of those weird diehard Sony people. Like, no one's going to buy this.
Oh yeah, like my
PS5
like
I've seen some people trying to defend it with the whole like gaming is a luxury kind of thing or whatever, or being like, oh, but people buy like iPhones every year at this crazy price or whatever. And it's like, yeah, they're fucking stupid too. Like, what's your point? Or saying the whole gaming is a luxury thing. It's like, gaming has become much more affordable these days.
Gaming's a luxury if you make it one. Yeah,
like if you want to just like play a video game, it's not that difficult to do, man. Like, even if you want to get in the console gaming, like if you're that strapped for cash, you could buy like, say, a used Switch for like $150 maybe. I don't know what used Switches go for, but probably not that much. And then there's a bunch of cheaper free games on the eShop already. If you have if you have a computer, you can just get Steam. Like there's so many more ways of getting into gaming now. It's not really a luxury anymore. Like, it's the same people who say like smartphones are luxuries when it's like, let's be honest, they're necessities now. It's just it's just the way our world works. And then Jeff Keighley made that tweet of the inflation adjusted prices for all the consoles. And it's funny he did that when, if you look at the numbers, for the most part, the PS5 Pro is more expensive than all of them anyways. The only exception is the PS3. Which is funny because it feels like the PS5 Pro is sort of another PS3 like blunder.
It's an even more brain dead one though. At least the PS3 had reasoning behind it.
Yeah, the PS3 was like a legit powerful piece of machinery that I mean is arguably a little too powerful for what it was trying to do.
Also, launch PS3s had Blu-ray discs. Blu-ray players at that time were expensive, and it legit had a PS2 shoved in it. So it made sense why it was that stupidly expensive.
Yeah, whereas the PS5 Pro, there's no reason for this. Like in their little video presentation, they didn't show anything that was worth it. All they showed were games that are already running just fine on a PS5. Hell, a PS4, like their big, like I think the big game they used to show how powerful it was Last of Us 2. And I'm like, Bubby, I played that on a base PS4 and it looks maybe a little bit better. Like a little bit, but not worth that pricing, you know?
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy because they're doing this, and credit to Microsoft. They've had a few more like Series X's, but they haven't really. The only time they've increased the price on it is if, say, there's more storage in the unit. But other than that, it's, you know, I mean, still, you can get a Series X for $500, you know, and then this is going to be sitting on the shelf, the PS5 Pro at like $700. And then people are going to see those and maybe go, oh, what's the difference? And it's going to be like, honestly, not that much, you know, unless you really care about playing first party Sony games, but it feels like their reputation is starting to go down, especially with the whole Concord debacle, that some people may just see the series and just go, yeah, that's the cheaper option. A lot of times people go for the cheaper option. Did we talk about Concord?
I don't think we did.
Concord's fucking dead and it's never coming back.
You know how great like Concord's marketing was?
There wasn't any.
I didn't know it existed. I literally, the first time I heard about it was when it was shutting down. I was like, oh.
Well, I remember they had that state of play or showcase or whatever, and a good chunk of it was Concord. Oh, and people were
must have missed that
why
one.
are you? Yeah, and they're like, why are you putting this much effort into a hero shooter at this time?
Well, yeah, because hero shooters are fucking dead. Like, do people even play Overwatch anymore?
Like Overwatch 2 shitting the bed was kind of the sign that they're done.
Oh, yeah.
Because Overwatch 2, I mean, the whole reason they did Overwatch 2 is for the PvE thing, and then they completely abandoned it for reasons. You know, I think it got lost in the merger or something. So just I'm sure there are people who still play Overwatch because it's like it's the game that they play. But yeah, like Concord, it wasn't going to get an audience. Like we knew that. The market is way too crowded in the live service camp. You know, yes, there's a lot of money to be made. I think somebody said it was like 84% of all gaming revenue is from like live service games. But the problem is it's like 6 games, maybe 8 games at most that are in that 84%, and they're not budging. You know, like people who are locked into Fortnite, locked into Minecraft, locked into Call of Duty, locked into whatever, right?
PUBG,
Apex. Whatever. Yeah, like those people are there and that's not moving. That needle's not going to move on those anytime soon. Eventually, Fortnite will fade away. Minecraft will fade away, but it'll be interesting when that happens. So, and so it's like that other 16% is just like us weirdos who play the shit. But it's like Concord was never going to get that audience, and Sony just completely abandoning it really quickly was kind of shocking. That they wouldn't even give it, say, like a year. I think like Anthem, Battleborn, Evolve, like all these like games that famously bombed, got more time. Hell, you can still play Anthem, actually. And I'm told nowadays, if you boot up Anthem and play it, it's fine. You know?
See, my favorite is all the people that like pre-ordered Concord. They didn't get their copies until after it shut down.
Yeah, and then there are people just completely jumping off the maps to get the platinum before it died.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was a whole thing. And now people, I think, are trying to inflate the physical copies of Concord on the resale market. And it's like, that's not going to last.
No.
That's not going to last. In fact, slight off topic, apparently somebody found, what's the most expensive PS2 game? Was it Rule of Rose or Kuon or whatever? Apparently
Rule of Rose is one of them. Yes.
Yeah, apparently somebody found like a shit ton of sealed ones of one of those just like in a warehouse somewhere. So there's a bunch more out there.
I believe they're European copies, but I did see that.
Yeah, so. But anyways, Concord completely shit the bed, and then Astrobot comes out, and people seem really high on it.
Sony literally went from like having this great story to taking one of the biggest fucking L's I've seen in a while.
Yeah, like they shit the bed with Concord, they hit Astrobot, and people seem really into it. Like I've been saying, I feel like people are overhyping it, just in the sense of that's trying to say like, no, we want more of this, Sony. Like, do more of this. That's why we're gonna like hype it up like crazy. Like, I'm sure it's a great game. I'm sure. Like, when I get a PS5, it'll be one of the games I play. I'll probably have a good time with it. I might even get the platinum on it. It's a platformer. I might do that. Why not, right? Like, it has a fucking Ape Escape mode in it, which is awesome.
Yes.
Like, that's really cool. And it's Sony tapping into that nostalgia in a way that they never have before with their past franchises, which I think is helping it as well. Like, I don't really have that for their IP, so it doesn't mean shit to me, but it's cool to see everybody enjoying it, right? And then yeah, they're doing that. That's going well. And then what was it? Their president saying they don't have any IP or something, which is hilarious.
Actually, I don't even think it was
oh my god.
Or maybe
who said that?
I don't even know who the fucking structure at Sony is anymore.
But that was amazing. Them saying we don't have any IP. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
You know, I never thought I'd
just look at Astrobot. Look at all the dead IP
I know.
that are sitting in that game that because of the Astrobot bump, you could bring them all back.
I never thought I'd say it, but I really miss Kaz Hirai. He was a goofball, but at least things were better then.
Honestly, if you think about it, Jim Ryan may be made one of the smartest choices ever.
By getting the fuck out.
Like getting the fuck out at the right time, because he is not in this crossfire at all. When you could argue some of these choices were probably made during his tenure, but nobody's thinking about him anymore. He completely disappeared.
See, Kaz Hirai was like the Reggie, or like the I guess like the Peter Moore. Like, he had so many great quotes. Like,
yeah,
I think he was famous for giving us like Giant Enemy Crab.
Love Giant Enemy Crab.
That entire E3 presentation is my favorite dumpster.
It's legendary. It's so good. It's very good. Yeah, and then this PS5 Pro announcement, which is not going well at all, but we know Sony's they're not gonna change the price on that thing. It's not happening.
Anything, it's gonna get raised probably.
Yeah, I mean, it was the same with the PSVR 2. Like, everyone's like, why is this thing more expensive than the PS5? And they're not supporting the PSVR 2 at all. I think you can connect it to your PC now, but it's like a weird roundabout way. But it's just like things are not going well with Sony at all. Like, they're doing so bad, people have stopped saying all the doom and gloom on Microsoft. Like, that's how bad it is right now. They're not looking good.
The funny part is Sony and Microsoft are in this weird little like
they're both in not good shape.
No, they're not. And what's hilarious is I'm like sitting there thinking like Nintendo has the opportunity to do the funniest fucking thing right now.
Oh, easy.
And just fucking annihilate for 2 generations. And I kind of want to see it, because Nintendo, as much as they're kind of an evil corporate piece of shit, I kind of love them, and I hope they fucking just go all out this generation.
Yeah, because we have it, and the weird thing is with the Sony Microsoft thing. With Microsoft, they have announced games that are coming, things that we're excited for. Whereas with Sony, after Astrobot, we don't know what the fuck. Like, we know Wolverine's happening eventually, but outside of that,
Insomniac's making the Ghost of Tsushima sequel. We know that.
Sucker Punch.
Yes, Sucker Punch.
Yeah, Insomniac's doing the Wolverine, but the Ghost sequel I don't think it's been formally announced.
It hasn't yet, mostly because Sucker Punch is like one of those like rare studios that actually takes their fucking time.
Yeah, and I'm sure when that game comes out, it'll be great. But, is it going to be enough to bring them back from all of this? I mean, who knows? Time will tell. But outside of that, it's like they don't really have much in the pipeline outside of what they've announced, other than maybe they're scrambling to figure out their live service thing, Whereas on the other side, if you look at Microsoft, they've have a bunch of games that they've announced for, say, like the end of this year, we have some more coming, and then the games for like 25, 26 and all that. But you have people saying like, oh, which ones are coming to PlayStation, which ones aren't, kind of thing, which is a whole other conversation. So they're both in like very weird spots right now. And yeah, as you said, Nintendo has an opportunity, because basically the ball is in Nintendo's court now.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we all know the Switch 2 announcement. It's my guess is we'll get it soon. I would say within like a month and a half at most. Like, we'll get the unveiling of it.
What's really funny about this is I was curious what Nintendo's going to price the Switch 2 at, but now that Sony has just dropped this fucking unbelievable bomb of a price on the industry, Nintendo could literally price it probably at what it's valued and people would be happy just because it's not fucking that.
I mean, Nintendo could they could have their $299. Where if the Switch 2, if they show it and like it's much more powerful, we assume it's going to be more powerful, maybe somewhere between a PS4, PS4 Pro. Like the Joy-Cons are improved, full backwards compatibility, the works. Like, look how great Metroid Prime 4 looks. Look how great this new 3D Mario game's going to be. Like all this other stuff. And my guess is they'll price it at $400. That's my
honestly,
guess.
That's acceptable.
I think 400 would be fine because the original Switch is 300, which they were able to get away with that, with it being sort of the weird hybrid tech model. So they weren't quite sure how it was going to be power wise, but they've gotten a lot out of that, Tegra X1 chip, right? And also they were kind of on the, defense, so they needed to price it competitively. Whereas I still think 400 is still a competitive price. It's still cheaper than a base PS5 or a base Xbox Series X, right? So coming in with that price point, I don't think would be bad. Especially, what's the Switch OLED? Is the OLED at $350?
I think so.
So yeah, for $50 more, you get like the next Switch, basically, which doesn't look too bad. But they'll probably do like the Switch 2 OLED, which will be like $450, and then we'll probably be having this conversation again. So if Nintendo really wows everybody with the Switch 2, with like, here's like some of the stuff that's going to come with it. My guess is Prime 4 and the next 3D Mario will be the titles that they showcase for that thing. Probably the next Mario Kart as well. I'd say those are the three. Like Prime will just to be like, oh, look how great this thing is. Like, look how powerful our system is. It can make this game look amazing. And then the Odyssey sequel that I've been begging for years at this point. And then the long-awaited sequel to Mario Kart 8. Yeah. You show those three games, and they all look and run spectacularly on this portable thing that has the similar form factor, hopefully an improved form factor, and fixes all the little issues the original Switch has, but is a more powerful beast that's worthy of upgrading and keeping all your old stuff. They're fine. They'll be just fine. It won't sell as well, but I think they know it's not going to sell as well. But not selling 140 million units. Say they sell 80 million. That's still pretty good.
Yeah.
So
they just got to crap out a Pokemon game and everyone will buy it anyways. So
that is true. So, my guess is probably within the next couple weeks, we'll do a Super Pod Network special where we talk about the Switch 2 unveiling, because it'll probably be worth it. And we'll go from there.
Yeah.
So yeah, this PS5 Pro thing is just crazy. Like I was just at work doing my stuff, and then I saw people were talking about it, and I'm like, oh, they announced this thing, and then I look at it, I'm like, oh no. No.
Usually
we're at arrogant Sony. This feels like PS3 level arrogant Sony.
This feels worse than PS3.
Well, because they think people will just buy it.
Yeah.
Because it has the Sony name on it. And to be fair, there's been a lot of people online who have pushed that narrative.
They have.
And yeah, it's crazy. Like the same people who say they want Xbox to die, and it's like, brother, if Xbox goes under, the PS6 will be $1,000 because it'll be the only console on the fucking market,
and games will be $100 each.
Exactly, and I'm not gonna console game at that point. I would rather I'll buy a Nintendo console.
Yeah,
but I will keep my Series until it fucking dies because it'll probably be the last disc-based Xbox console, and from there I'll just go to PC.
I'll just go full retro at that point.
I mean, hell, Sony's gonna put all their shit on PC anyways.
We're getting there. It's gonna be Nintendo's gonna be that last holdout. The
day they do that that'll be a day to put in the history books because it'll be a good while, but just the day they're just like, okay, here's Breath of the Wild on PC. It's been like 10 years or whatever, 15 years. Here it is on Steam. And that thing will sell another like 10 million units.
No, knowing Nintendo, it won't even be Breath of the Wild. It'll be fucking Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, and they'll price it at like $40.
Yeah, and people will still, and they'll still buy it.
Just for the novelty of it. Yeah. Just like what the hell is this? You know? Could you imagine them putting like NES Mario 1 officially on Steam for like $10?
fucking dumbasses would buy it, even though you can just fucking emulate that shit so fucking easily.
I know, it's so funny. Like before they hit Vim, you could play it in your fucking browser.
Oh yeah.
Like one of the cool things about Vim's Lair that I've been messing around with a little bit is that you can a lot of those older games you can just straight up play them in your browser, which is actually like really cool. So good job, Vim. If you're listening, I have no idea.
Yeah. So before we get into the
what's funny, sorry, is that I just see a Wario 64 tweet that just says the Xbox Series X 2 terabyte console is still available for pre-order. It's $6.99, and they say includes a disc drive. So think about it. For $100, potentially $200 less, you can get a 2 terabyte Series X that'll have like 98% of the same games, has a disc drive baked into it. There you go. I mean, hell, what was it? It was a couple months ago when Sony raised the price of the PS5 in Japan, and apparently Series X's started flying off the shelves because it was cheaper. It didn't last. It was probably like a week or two of a little burst, but it was enough to people were like, oh shit, they're actually selling in there. That's crazy.
You know, I'm a strong Sony. I won't say I'm a Sony defender, but I'm one of those guys that I don't think they deserve a lot of the hate they get. This was the first time I was like, yeah, this is warranted. I'm like, I ain't even trying to defend them here.
Oh yeah, I mean they all have issues for sure, but yeah, this is a serious blunder. But will it be one that harms them in a long-term stance? That we cannot say.
See, it depends how hard fast they're going to be with this.
Yeah, but will they lower the price of the base PS5 for this? My guess is they won't.
You'd like to hope that, but I doubt it.
Yeah. Like my best bet is I'll get a used PS5 disc model on out there for like $400, $300 and then go from there.
Yeah.
Or you could just buy a Game Gear.
Yeah, or a 3DO. They're cheaper. They're cheaper now.
And they have games. PS5 ain't got no games.
I would like to bring up, though, on a bit of a lighter note before we get into our topic, we had a couple anniversaries this week. I believe it was the 25th anniversary of the Dreamcast this week.
Yes, that was. How fitting, because I've been bringing up Sega like crazy these past few weeks. And yeah, and the Dreamcast at its 25th anniversary.
Also, Final Fantasy VIII, just they were the same day. I always have to bring that up.
Who fucking cares? Anyways,
I do, damn it.
I know. Well, I feel like one of these days, all you Super Pod people are going to make me play that game start to finish.
I'm pretty sure I'm the only one in the network that actually likes that game.
Nave likes it.
Oh yeah, Nave does. Yeah, we did a listening together on it.
But a lot of my most recent Dreamcast playing has been a Sega bass fishing with the fishing rod controller. Nice. I imported this boy from Japan, and for some reason, third-party Japanese accessories work on it. Like it's region locked, yet accessories are not.
Yeah, they usually always were like that for whatever reason.
Yeah, it might be hardware components, but this thing with Sega bass fishing is actually like pretty dope. So,
well, actually, it's funny because a lot of if you buy, my Dreamcast was brand new in the box when I bought it because it was new old stock. It's an American Dreamcast, like orange logo and everything, but it actually came with a European controller for whatever reason.
Yeah, that's weird.
Like my controller has a blue swirl on it. I'm like, that's funny.
It's like I don't hate the blue swirl. It makes a lot more sense, but I'm just so used to the orange swirl.
I guess from what I've read, it was a lawsuit. Like there was a company that used the orange swirl in Europe, so they had to change it.
It's always weird.
I do like the fact that they changed like the BIOS and everything though in the system, so it's just blue now. That is cute, but yeah, Dreamcast, one of the greatest consoles of all time, a console that we failed. We failed it as a fan base, as a consumer base. I saw a video and who came out on top? Sony. Look what they're doing right now. I know. We could have had the Dreamcast like 4 by now. I know. I saw a video on the Dreamcast years ago. Well, it was on failed consoles, and I always remember because like they ended talking about the Dreamcast. And I think they prefaced it as like it's the one failed console that everyone wishes didn't fail. Yes, because I just if you look at stuff from the time, just the historical
perception was people seemed to like it, and it started off really strong, but I think it was shortly after that Sony announced the PS2, and everyone saw that and they're like, oh, I'm just gonna wait.
Yeah, the sheer hype. Like I'm not one of those believers that thinks a DVD drive would have saved it. I don't think that would have been enough. Personally.
No, I think it was just Sony was coming off of the huge success of the PS1, and a lot of people were looking forward to what the PS2 was going to offer. And that was back when generational leaps were still pretty considerable. And people were just ready for it. And Sega had hurt their reputation to the consumer base. To even when the Dreamcast got everything right, people were still a little bit weary, and the lack of like true third-party support as well hurt it. It had pretty good third-party support, but not enough third-party support, whereas they all were going behind Sony. And then, of course, with the GameCube and then the original Xbox looming, just Sega, like if Sega had made it to 02, 03, it probably wouldn't, it would have been swallowed whole by the other three at that point.
Like,
so
to me, the moment that they probably realized this thing they were done with consoles is when they couldn't even give the damn things away.
Yeah. Which again, all that goes on Sega, I think. I mean, again, there are other things that happen around the industry that you could place some of the blame on, but at the end of the day, Sega just somehow they went from being like the top, like being the company to knock Nintendo off of its perch, which it was on that perch for a long time, and they were able to actually break through the monopoly of Nintendo and establish themselves as just as, if not greater, to some extent. Like when the Genesis was at its peak, even when the Super Nintendo was coming out, people didn't want a Super Nintendo because it didn't have Sonic, and it wasn't the Sega cool thing, right? Like they were at that point where they were like the kings, and then they just let themselves rock slide into doom and gloom.
Their parent company was incredibly jealous of their own success and decided to sabotage themselves.
Yeah, which is just so fucking stupid.
Yeah. But you could go on for days over how Sega was one of the greatest clusterfucks in gaming.
Yeah, and that even despite all of that, we all still hold them near and dear to our hearts because just the kind of games and the kind of systems they were making.
They weren't afraid to take a risk.
And it represents a weird way a bygone era of like game making that just like people don't make games like this anymore.
The reason
people don't
why
approach games like this anymore. Even Sega themselves don't approach games like this anymore.
No. Like the reason why the Super Nintendo and Genesis era to me is considered one of the greatest eras in gaming is because Nintendo had to fucking try because they actually had competition that was forcing them to try.
I mean, they were making great stuff in the NES era when they didn't really have any genuine competition. But yeah, the Super Nintendo, to your point, it like pushed them to be better. And it did push them to be better because just about all their first party offerings from that console generation, people still say are like the best stuff they've ever done. Like there are people who say Mario World is the best Mario game. I do not agree with that. There are some
people doesn't either. So
yeah, that's a whole nother tangent, but I just find Mario World very bland.
See, I find Mario 3 very bland.
I think Mario 3 is fucking perfect. Like it has more variety to it than World, but that's I digress. Link to the Past, a lot of people say is the best Zelda game. And it's not my favorite, but it's very fucking good. Like Super Metroid, not my favorite Metroid game, but like a game that established a genre. So you got to give it that, like, I mean, hell, Yoshi's Island. Love Yoshi's Island.
See, that's my favorite side scroller, Earthbound.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yoshi's Island, I think that's probably the best like Nintendo game on that system.
Oh, yeah.
I might get some flack for saying that, but that's just my opinion.
I love Donkey Kong Country, but those games have aged like shit. I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah, they're not great. They're not great. I think Rare's best stuff was still to come.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, like it pushed Nintendo to be better, and by the same logic, Sega was still pushing themselves to be better and making a lot of really great games.
Sega had to do everything Nintendo was doing by themselves because Nintendo had the monopoly on pretty much everything.
Yeah, and I think some people tend to downplay Sega's IPs, right? But like, I mean, they were pushing. I mean, yeah, there was Sonic. but they had like so much like Phantasy Star, the Shining series, Echo,
Streets of Rage,
Vector Man. Like they still had a bunch of IP themselves that they were crafting, and the third parties were starting to really come in on the Genesis and make their own unique experiences. Like say Castlevania Bloodlines, Contra Hardcore, the Hyperstone Heist, like the games that they were like, you know what, we're making it for this console, so let's give it that sort of vibe, like a Genesis kind of edge. And so that's why those two consoles are like perfect rivals, and they match each other in so many different ways, but each library has its own unique characteristics to it.
Oh yeah. It's the one console war that really mattered.
Yeah, because they genuinely hated each other.
Like the only other one that comes close, and this one's a bit of a stretch, is the PS3 360. Not in terms of power, just in terms of like how it actually, I think, made the two companies stronger.
Yeah, and I think they were competing with each other. It wasn't as bloodlust as Nintendo Sega, but you could tell there was some genuine competition there between the two of them. And yeah, it did push them to be better. But I think they just kind of fell into complacency once we hit the PS4 era.
I think Microsoft's fall off during the Xbone era is really kind of what let Sony get big-headed like they've been lately. And
yes,
because Microsoft really hasn't, they've recovered, but they haven't become like the powerhouse they were during the 360 era again.
Yeah, Sony, like they're not doom and gloom, as so many people like to say. Like they're doing just fine. They're not going anywhere. Like if you're worried about the hardware, that's fair. But like again, like Microsoft's at a point now where they see what Sony's doing, and they're like, they could like come around the corner and really change perceptions. But do they even want to do that? I don't know.
I think Microsoft
they could ascend, they could let Sony become arrogant Sony again, and then just come out of nowhere and be like, we're the fucking place to be. Look at us. And then people maybe shift over. But again, it's with digital libraries and how things are now, I don't think it's possible, or at least not to the extent when everyone moved from the PS2 to the 360. Like that's not going to happen again. I don't think that can happen again.
What's always funny to me too is like in situations like this where Sony and Microsoft are in weird places, everyone always forgets Nintendo's looming in the background about to fucking strike.
So. Yeah, well, Nintendo kind of put themselves out of the direct competition. They made a conscious decision to be the second console, and it's worked fantastically well for them.
Oh yeah, I mean, people forget the Wii fucking won that generation, no matter how forgettable its second half was.
Oh yeah. It was pretty rough. So, but yeah, Sony's in a weird spot, and Bill's crying over about it. No, I'm just kidding.
No, not really. This is like the most like even I'm over their shit at this point, and I'm just kind of like, I'll stick with my PS2, thank you.
Because at the end of the day, what people want from the PS5 is what they wanted from the PS4, which was like those first party games, and people aren't getting them. Like that, we have a few, but not nearly as much, and it just feels like stuff that could have ran on a PS4. In fact, a lot of them do run on a PS4. So what's the point? I mean, hell, like Rebirth has caused Square Enix to be like, you know what, fuck it, we're just putting everything on everything. And I wouldn't be surprised if at Tokyo Game Show, which is coming up, if Square's just like, all right, Final Fantasy 16, 7 Remake Rebirth, it's all coming to Xbox and PC. I think it's all on PC already, but there's like,
16's coming to PC soon. I know that.
Yeah. So. And I mean, and they've said as much that they're going multi-plat. Like people have said, oh, they're going to put more on Xbox. And they're like, yeah, Final Fantasy 14, when that hit Xbox, that did really well. They're very pleased with it. So they're just like, fuck it, multi-plat going forward. And I feel like that's the future. Like there's not going to be that many third-party publisher developers who go exclusive for one console. They're just going to multi-plat everything. You'll have maybe like say some indies or some upstarts do that to get some more money for their games. But like is Ubisoft going to do like a Sony or Microsoft exclusive game? No.
The only true
people will be like, that's fucking stupid.
To me, the only true exclusives we're going to see for a while going forward are the Nintendo things.
Yeah. Because it's still working for them. And to them, if it ain't broke, they're not going to fix it.
I mean, Nintendo could totally fumble the Switch too, and then we start getting new stuff on PC. But that would take an aligning of the stars that even we're not prepared for.
Yeah, because even then, if they did fumble the Switch 2,
they'll be fine.
They could probably still coast on the Switch 1 because, let's face it, people are still buying the damn things.
Exactly. Like, they would be just fine. And Nintendo, I mean, they proved it with the Wii U. They can take a hit for a couple years and be just fine because they're very smart. You know, like, yeah, we hate them for a lot of understandable reasons, but they're also a very smart company.
Oh yeah.
And they don't just throw their money everywhere like the other two. They know, they play it conservative, but it seems to work just fine for them. So even if their games don't sell crazy high numbers, they don't really complain about it. They're just like, yeah, it probably turned a profit.
Yeah.
And they're fine.
Ugh, that was a heavy opening.
Yeah. 40 fucking minutes of current industry news. But there was a lot that happened. So it was worth talking about.
Yeah. We'll see what changes next week. I would like to say though, our topic for this episode is a very interesting game to me, because we're actually going to be talking about Blade Force.
I don't have it. I'm sorry.
That's okay. This copy actually, like, the box, just like the glue that was holding it together, because it's one of those cheapo depot boxes. It gave up on me, so I had to scotch tape the box back together.
I've seen a few scotch taped 3DO boxes though, so
yeah.
So you're not too bad on that.
Yeah. So Blade Force. I wanted to talk.
I mean, first of all, what a fucking generic ass name and like a generic ass cover. Like this game,
you don't want to be
honestly,
Helicopter Man?
Like this game, just purely on looking at it before I even played it, was not enticing at all. At all. Like that fucking title could be an Intellivision game.
I know. It is one of the. So the reason I bought this game is, well, we'll get into one of the reasons, but the other reason was I got this complete in-box copy for $5, like back when I first started collecting 3DO.
Yeah.
It also took me forever to realize that the thing on the cover is a Helicopter Man. Like that's just kind of awesome. I don't know.
Well, apparently, according to price charting, CIB, it's now about $30, but you can get it loose for like 10, 15 bucks.
Yeah, it was a Studio 3DO game, so one of their in-house projects. So they made a lot of these. Interestingly enough, this was a late 3DO game. This was 95, so this was like right towards the end of 3DO's time as a console.
I can kind of see it though with how the game looks and how it plays. Because I will say graphically, I do think the game is pretty impressive for the console.
So that is the reason I wanted to play this game, because when I was looking up 3DO games when I first started getting into the system, Blade Force was the one that caught my eye, just because I wish we did video footage of the games for the video versions, but holy fuck, the graphics on this game are almost on. So one of the 3DO's biggest running gags with its detractors is, for a system called the 3DO, it kind of sucked at 3D. This is one of the few games that I think actually like showcased the 3DO was quite capable with 3D to a degree. Because this game is on par with a lot of early PS1 stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
So I guess the best way to describe this game, it's a open world-ish action shooter game where you fly around levels and shoot shit.
Basically. So before we even get into the gameplay, we got to talk about, as you said, yeah, graphically, it's very impressive with the 3D stuff. And I was honestly surprised at how well it ran as well. I mean, I was playing it on an emulator, but it was, I didn't have any like slowdown or anything. Like I thought it controlled decently well, but it opens with one of the most terrifying things I have ever seen in my goddamn life. And that is not the Medusa lady. no, the fucking old man, the 3D old man who like talks to you, and he's like,
yeah,
right here.
Yep.
To the camera, and you can see all of his mid-90s wrinkles. I literally went, bah!
I was like,
what the fuck is that?
I was like 50-50 on putting him in the thumbnail. I went against it at the last minute, instead put the futuristic city, but
Oh man.
Because yeah, the opening cutscene for this game uses some of the most horrifying yet amazing 90s CGI ever.
Yeah, like again, stuff that was probably impressive at the time. It's more impressive than D. Sorry, D. But yeah, it's just like this is more scary than fucking D.
Yeah, it is. I actually like the guys like
sorry, Dre.
I think even Dre realizes that game hasn't aged well, but
he loved it back in the day. I could see why.
I can understand back in the day. It's just it's one of those games that hasn't aged like shit. But,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that opening cutscene. I actually like the narrator they got for it. Like he does perform. He doesn't like go over the top, and he actually performs the lines pretty well. But it's so over the top 90s. It's not even funny.
Yeah, but it has that, that charm to it that a lot of games from this era have when you go back and play them.
Oh yeah, like when I first booted it up, I was like, "Holy crap! This game actually it feels like a game," which was rare for 3DO games sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because because you go into that tutorial and it's trying to like teach you how to play the game, and my thought was like the controls are a little sluggish, but I think I can kind of figure it out, and it wasn't too bad. Like the issue I had was sort of like the depth perception, because your icon or your little helicopter man is like right here at the bottom of the screen, like right bottom in the direct center, like center bottom, which is like for like any sort of game where you're like a helicopter or whatever. If it's like, say, if it's not like 2D, say if it's like behind the idea, say like Return Fire, when you're in the helicopter, they always have you in the dead center of the screen, kind of zoomed out so you can see what you're doing, unless it's like, say, like a first person flying game. So, but this is trying to do the whole, like, it's like, he's like right here, but it just, it messed with my depth perception when it came to like collecting items and all that. But thankfully I found the game to be pretty generous with that stuff. Even the lock-on system for using your guns was very, very generous. So credit to them for at least recognizing those limitations and doing some like, borderline modern quality of life stuff to make sure that it's like a playable game. And it was like, weirdly enough, one of the more playable games we've ever played on the show. Even though I couldn't get out of the first level because I didn't know where the fuck I was going or what the fuck I was even doing.
So so control wise, this game I think has a bit of a learning curve, but once you figure it out, it's actually pretty fun. The problem I have with this game is they don't tell you what the fuck to do when you're in the levels.
Yeah, I think you're supposed to just like collect stuff to like progress further in the map to take out like the big bad guy or whatever.
Yeah,
but it's like, but you're not quite sure what it is you need to collect or what you actually have to do, so you're just collecting. For some reason the game gives you health and fuel.
Yes,
it's like I feel like it should be one or the other.
It's one of those weird ones. I kind of like, I remember getting past the first level by just kind of shooting shit, and then I suddenly won, and I was like, oh, I did it, I guess. Like
once I warmed up to the controls, I had fun sort of like, flying around and shooting the random like gunship stuff and collecting things. And like, I was starting to get a feel for it. And there's a lot of things you can shoot and destroy. But again, the game doesn't do a lot to really explain what it is you're shooting, why it is you're shooting it, like what the purpose of it is and how to like keep going. Like it gives you some hints, but like not enough. So I just spent like, I think I played like 2 hours of that game, and most of it was me just being like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, I beat this way back when I first got it, like back in like 2018-ish, but it clearly didn't leave enough of an impression because I couldn't remember how the fuck how I did it. Playing this time around. I had to look up a guide, and even in the time since then, I still don't really remember how I got through it. I will say things I like about the game are the camera to me is very interesting. Like it kind of actually gives you that feeling of like you're in a helicopter, like the way it kind of like dips down and like curves around.
Yeah.
Like the game engine is really impressive, and I kind of wish they did more with it.
Yeah. Like apparently this was, as you said, it was made by Studio 3DO. Like a lot of the people who made Jurassic Park Interactive made this, which in a weird way I could see, say with like those crappy Velociraptor
mazes, like that 3D sort of engine was perfectly fine. So it felt like they took that and tried to turn it into like a helicopter game, which is perfectly fine. But I, and yeah, it's like it's a perfectly serviceable game. I like how it controls. Like graphically, it's pretty good for the era. Like it wasn't frustrating to play or anything, but it just it becomes, to quote AVGN, one of those "where the fuck do I go" kind of games.
Yeah, it's
And
kind of
that's
like
really its main issue.
you know that it's actually a really weird. Speaking of AVGN, this is actually a really weird comparison, but I kind of feel like this is a more playable version of that fucking Jaguar game with the face.
Cybermorph.
Yeah, it's like a more playable version of Cybermorph in a lot of ways.
I mean, at least with Cybermorph, you actually see your plane the whole time.
True.
Like that game doesn't control very well, and I think Cybermorph was trying to be like their Star Fox, I think, and it just doesn't really come close to. It's more impressive than Star Fox, but it's not a better game than Star Fox. Like in a weird way, Blade Force, I think, like surpasses both of them in terms of like the fidelity, because it uses a mixture of like 3D models and also like it actually has like textures on the polygons, which in 95 is like fucking mind blowing. They're putting textures on these things. Who knows? Who knows what's next? Maybe with more polygons.
Like the biggest thing to me, like with this game, like that I noticed right away, is the fucking draw distance is really fucking good.
Yeah, I mean it has the fog, but it's not nearly as bad as some other games we've played. I mean, hell, even some like modern games I've played have had not good draw distances. This.
What do you think of the totally radical soundtrack?
Very 90s.
Yeah, there a lot of guitar and like just like shredding and shit. And that was like,
it honestly felt like B-roll music for Road Rash.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I liked it, but like the whole time I'm like, this is about all I like about it.
Yeah, and I did my best not to pull up a walkthrough for this game just because I wanted to see if I could figure it out. I never did, but this is a game I don't know if it even has a walkthrough or not, because with some obscure games you can never tell.
There are walkthroughs, but they're not the best written.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking up a walkthrough for a game from 1995 written by some doofus in a basement in like 1998, it's not going to be all that impressive. So.
Who was probably playing a different game and mixed up the names. That totally happened a few times.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like I don't think this is a bad game at all. Like,
I think this is the most visually impressive game on 3DO that we've played so far from a 3D aspect.
Okay, so I was going to say it's graphically not as good as Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, but
hell yeah,
that's real people, man. Holy shit!
It doesn't have goddamn, it's too risque for Steam. Goddamn,
that was amazing. Oh my god.
Yeah, fucking that.
Like wow.
Plumbers Don't Wear Ties. No, that's terrible. Too much. Sex with Hitler too.
Oh, that's perfect. In fact, funnily enough, we mentioned Plumbers Don't Wear Ties. I got an email from Limited Run Games, right? Because if some of you remember, I did order that like 1 day thing they had for a 3DO copy of Plumbers Don't Wear Ties. Like it was a complete impulse buy, right? So they said, "Oh, we're excited to get your pre-order," right? But they wanted to let me know that the estimated ship date had changed. It was originally going to be September 10th through the 12th, right? So sometime this week. It got pushed back to fucking October.
Sounds about right.
Literally, and it's the whole month, like sometime in October.
So when they don't meet that deadline, they can go sometime in November.
And it's like, is this trying to make sure they don't do the fucking CDR thing again?
I hope so. When you get that,
honestly,
we have to review it for the show.
No. When I get it, I'll probably do like a solo video of it so everybody can see it, and we'll probably put it up separate.
Okay.
Like I'll do a thing for it, I promise. But it'll probably be, I'll do a separate thing where I do like a complete unboxing of it, and I'll probably like even do a test of it, kind of thing. Like I'll do like a little YouTube special thing on it. But I will show it in the show when we get it. Because oh god damn it. I spent way too much goddamn money on this piece of shit. But at this point, it's like they said I could cancel it, but I'm like, I'm gonna get content out of this, so I'm not canceling it. So hopefully sometime in October, I will get their version of Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So, I mean, you still paid less than I did for my original version.
That is true. That is true. So, God fucking damn it, these stupid and Limited Run. They had a bunch of Dreamcast merch for some reason.
I hope they're not trying to get into reprinting Dreamcast games because
that would be amazing.
They've already fucked up 3DO. Like, are they gonna fuck up Dreamcast now?
Yeah, that got fucked up a long time ago. Yeah, they have a bunch of Dreamcast merch, which I find weird that they're doing that and not Sega themselves. I mean, Sega has Dreamcast merch on their site.
Yeah,
it's always been there. They have like a really cool Dreamcast shirt. And it's like I saw that and I was like, yeah, but I don't want to give Limited Run Games money for a Sega thing. Like, fuck out of here. You know, I mean, hell, they had that 3DO shirt for a while, but that's long gone. Otherwise, I would have bought one.
You know, it's kind of funny. So this game was super late into 3DO, but I love how like a 3DO made game, they were still desperately trying to hold on to their stupid rating system.
Yeah, it's rated 17, yet apparently, according to the third chair of this show, Wikipedia, the Japanese release was rated E. Yeah. Because like I played this game and I was like, what the hell is 17 about this? Like, I don't even think they swear. And if they do, it didn't cross my brain.
The back cover is so fucking 90s as well. Like, you are entering Megagrid, a thriving metropolis built in the ruins of a city. Megagrid. That's mega with 2 G's, by the way.
Yeah, mega.
Built on the ruins of a city once known as Los Angeles. What, you mean it wasn't ruins already? Sorry.
No, I love it. It takes place in the year 2110. So they were smart to put it like super far in the fucking future.
Yeah, so
well past all of us are dead, so we won't know.
Yeah.
Smart on their part. See, if you're going to make a game that's like a dystopian future, yeah, just make up some number like, oh, it's the year 5089. Like,
this is the most
fucking do it.
This is the most 90s text ever. The year is 2110 and chaos rules.
That looks like the back of a VHS tape from 1995.
It really does. I really wish they did 2112 just so we could have like a Rush reference, but
they can't get away with that. That one's too obvious. Even in 95, people would have got that reference.
Also, there's a little like this weird like funky arrow thing down here, and it's like 6 degrees of freedom.
I mean, to be fair, I think the idea is that it's meant to be like it has like smooth flying, which it does, surprisingly enough. But again, to compare it to Ace Combat, which was probably around the same time, is it better than that? No.
Unfortunately, like I feel like this was like Studio 3DO like putting their all into something in a last desperate measure. And unfortunately, like most 3DO stuff, it just kind of like it was cool, but like who was gonna play this back in 95?
Like it's a fine enough game, but like this is 1995. We can't have like a helicopter game be sort of the reason everybody shows up to play your console. You know what I mean? Like this isn't the NES, or this isn't like the Sega Genesis where like Desert Strike was a big deal on there, you know, or like even Jungle Strike. Right? Like it's like even Return Fire was really cool, but you're not just a helicopter. You have a bunch of different vehicles, right? So you can't get away with that, you know? Like imagine if, say, the PS5 Pro's like big next gen game was like some fucking helicopter sim. You'd be like, everyone would be like, what the fuck is this bullshit? You know what I mean? Even in 95, it's like, yeah, it's a cool game and it's worth trying, but you know, it's not something you buy a console for. It's something that when you're looking for a game for your console, you see it's like $20 and you go, yeah, why not?
This is like one of those games that I feel like is like one of those retroactive like gems where it's like
in a way
at the time it came out, it was probably like, yeah, whatever. But like you look at it nowadays and you're like, wow, the 3DO actually was something.
It's not crystal clear. It's a bit smudgy. It's a bit hazy. You know?
So before we get into must play, stay away, because there's really not much else to say about this game other than
It got good. It got good ratings at the time.
It did. It got surprising. It was like Game Rankings has it at 90%. All Game gave it 3.5 stars. Edge gave it 7 out of 10.
Adam Copeland reviews video games.
Oh, yeah. That's funny.
I'm glad you got that.
Yeah. 3DO Magazine. They must have just only reviewed certain games, but they gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Next Generation gave it 5 stars. The Electric Playground. Anyone remembers them? 9 out of 10. The lowest score here is Maniac with an exclamation point for an I. Gave it a 53%.
I could see why.
But yeah, it was a lot of the praise was mostly directed at the graphics, and a lot of outlets called it the best game for 3DO. Highly debatable, but sure.
In terms of its graphics, it is very impressive for the system. But like this is like, oh, the best game on the system? No,
not when like Street Fighter 2 exists. I mean,
yeah, hell, I'd take Gex over this.
I mean, yeah, Gex is still the system. Road Rash, I'd play over this.
Yeah,
Need for Speed, I'd play over this.
All right, here's the first paragraph of the 3DO Magazine review, which is on Internet Archive. Thank you. After all the hype about PSX, Blade Force delivers a timely demonstration of 3DO power with some of the most sumptuous 3D yet seen. Vast cityscapes recreate the feel of a daytime fog-draped Blade Runner. Impressive for a leisurely exploration game. Gobsmacking for a 26 FPS arcade blaster.
I like that term, leisurely exploration game. That's actually kind of accurate.
To be fair, it was more chill than I expected.
Yeah, the later levels do get kind of intense because I remember, because I did get through a few levels. The later ones get pretty challenging. Like this game kind of gets pretty hard later on, and thankfully continues are unlimited. But
I would hope so. There was one time I did run out of fuel. And I love that when I ran out of fuel, I think I got the same animation if you run out of health, which is just you turn into a big ball of fire and just crash.
Yeah, I love
that. And I'm like, I ran out of fuel. What's there to be set on fire?
The pilot just gave up.
He hit the spontaneous combust on his fucking suit.
He hit self-destruct. He's like, I'm done.
I'll never get out of this.
I'm going to die anyways. Might as well go out in a blaze of glory.
He died on the way back to his home planet.
He was one day away from retirement.
What does it say? Bite me. That's the legend scrawled on the hero's mouthpiece. That's the attitude of the developers of Blade Force. A colossal 3D landscapes, masked gun emplacements, a sky full of attack drones, all at 30 FPS or more. But you just said it was 26.
Shh. That doesn't sound as good.
I like that. If you bizarrely don't like rock, like, because talk about the music, it's like in 95 you could say that. In 2024, you cannot get away with saying that.
I mean, 95, yeah, the entire the music landscape was literally grunge, new metal, and punk. So yeah, it kind of makes sense.
R&B and R&B was having rap. I think country was still in its like resurgence at the time. Like the 90s was a surprisingly varied era for music, and also 95 was when it was that weird gap, like right before, like the early 90s was very pop heavy, the late 90s was very pop heavy. It was right in that gap. So I think it was like 97 when like Hanson came out that started the big late 90s pop boom. Yeah, we're not here to talk about music history, are we? I mean, we could. Oh, the game is compatible with a flight stick, according to this review.
I think the game would actually I'd actually kind of like to try that, but I don't know if the 3DO flight stick is easy to find.
Yeah, I love how they hype all this stuff up, but at the end they say it will certainly not appeal to everyone.
I mean, you could say that about literally every game.
I know. To be fair, I don't think if you're a 3DO owner, this game probably isn't like that niche. You know, like probably in 95, you're like, I'll take anything. And it's like, this looks fine, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, it looked impressive. I bet if you saw a screenshot of it, I mean, probably the back actually does have some pretty nice. Actually, no, there's only one shot of the game. The rest is the horrifying CG.
Yeah.
The hell are they thinking?
For some reason, 3DO Mag, they let you know like the size of the save game. It's 6 SRAM slots. Why they let you know that, I have no idea.
And if you have an FC1, you can't manage your memory, so good luck.
Yeah, no memory manager on this boy.
We haven't brought that one up in a while.
I figured I'd bring it up. And what's funny is right below it in this 3DO mag, the next review is Killing Time.
Oh yeah, that was a late one too.
And then let's see, Space Hulk, which these screenshots are a nightmare. Battle Sport, and then an ad for Icebreaker was right after.
Uh-oh.
For some reason, they do Super Wing Commander and Wing Commander 3 back to back in reviews. Like, what the fuck? Y'all are crazy.
They must have came out around the same time.
I guess so. But yeah, seeing so. Oh, Mega Race. Oh, Mega Race. Ooh, that'll be a good one. That'll be a good one.
So for okay, must play, stay away. This one's tough because as much as I want to say it's a must play, it's kind of one of those games that like the review said, it's really not for everybody. I'm gonna say okay on this one.
Yeah, it's not a must play at all, in my opinion. I find it very okay. I think if it had a better sense of direction and was kind of had a little bit more action at the beginning, like better pacing, I think it could have become a must play. But I think for what it is, it's just okay. But it's definitely one of the better okay games. You know, like when we do the tier of the second half, this will probably be like decently high up, but it won't be like incredible. You know what I mean?
Definitely won't be an S tier, but it will probably be in the higher half of like the B and A tier. It's one of those games that I really wish 3DO had lasted longer, just so we could have seen them do more with this engine, because this engine is damn impressive.
I mean, hell, give me a Blade Force 2.
Yeah, honestly. Or hell, this engine could have made the first Army Men game on 3DO if they lasted that long.
That would have been interesting. Oh, that reminds me. A friend of mine sent me a thing yesterday. I'm surprised I had mentioned it to you. It's some weird, like, it looks like a live service shooter that looks like an Army Men game.
Huh.
It's called Green Hawk Platoon. So check that out.
Have to keep that in mind. But yeah, so Blade Force is a definite okay. Glad to finally get that one off the list, because I'd been wanting to talk about it for a while, just because it really is that graphical 3DO game that really did showcase the fact that the system had some chops to it.
Oh yeah. Like I think it's, you know, a decently powerful system, and I think this game is one of those that's like, yeah, like pretty good.
It was very much like kind of like a lot like the Saturn or the PS3, not in terms of like success, but like just in terms of like it had power. It just, you really needed a developer to really get that power out of it.
Exactly.
Hell, even the Atari Jaguar to a degree had similar stuff, but the Jaguar just didn't last. I mean, 3DO at least sold 2 million, so
yeah, exactly. So,
but, go on.
No, you're good.
I was just gonna say, so that leads to the question: what do we play next?
Well, I'm looking at our list here. Trying to see what sticks out.
We haven't done a fighter in a while. Granted, there's only like one left.
Is it Foes of Ali?
No, I was thinking we haven't done Samurai Showdown yet.
Oh yeah, we haven't done Samurai Showdown. I think Aaron wanted to do that with us.
I'm talking to him tomorrow, so I can ask him.
There you go, ask him.
All right, yeah. So let's plan. Well, we'll contingency. We'll say Samurai Showdown, but if not, we might cover something.
If not, let's do off-world Interceptor, because I know you wanted to do that one.
Oh yeah, we can do that one. Another Crystal game.
Yeah, so it'll be one of those two.
Okay, sounds good. Well, on that note, guys, once again, thanks for joining us on the 3DO Experience. The 3DO Experience can be found on all your major podcasting platforms. And be sure to check us out over on the Superpod Network. That is superpodnetwork.com. You can find a whole bunch of awesome podcasts, videos, blogs, just a whole bunch of awesome creators over there, including Superpod Saga, Super Ghost Radio, Retro Rehab, Tommy's Video Game Ride Along, Remember 64, a novel console if they ever come back, Gaming Together. Sorry, Chris. Friday Night Gamecast, Bar Silence, Fine Time, The Elder Trolls, all the GNC shows. I believe I said Remember 64 already. Yeah, there's a ton of awesome creators over there. Great stuff, occasional awesome collaborations here and there. And you will be streaming on Thursday this week, right?
Yes, sir. I actually, before this, I compiled my 5 games I'm going to play. I'm going to tackle another Sonic game.
Nice.
But not one of the big ones. No. Instead, I feel like the time is right. Sonic Spinball.
Oh, boy.
We got to do Sonic Spinball. So
I can't wait to see the audience reaction to that one.
I mean, that game is part of my blood, so I know it very well. And then the other games I've picked, it's an interesting collection of stuff. But that's what I like about the Genesis stream, is that I always pick a lot of interesting stuff. Like the issue I'm running into is a lot of people have recommended the big stuff, and I'm like, I don't want to hit all the big stuff like right at the start. So I'm trying to pace them out. So I'll get the Streets of Rage. Okay, calm down.
Yeah, I got to go dig into like the Genesis library and find some obscure shit for you.
That's what I need. I want the obscure shit, like when Felton gave me that fucking Beach Babe-O-Rama.
Where are the damn babes?
I think there was a nude code I forgot to enter, so that was on me.
Nice.
Just no Pat Riley basketball, please.
Oh yeah, fuck that.
That game broke me.
What's the basketball game that Scott the Woz played? It's
Awesome, baby.
Yeah, that one.
Oh, I can't remember the name of it. It's Awesome, baby. Hold on. I know the game. I've actually played it. Dick Vitale's Awesome Baby College Hoops. Okay. That is the official name.
I love that one.
I'll add it to the list for you.
I mean, at this point, if you played one shitty basketball game, you got to at least try the other one.
It can't be that bad.
I hope not, because oof, that was something. Like I joked in the episode, I'm like, this is no Slam and Jam.
I mean, Slam and Jam is kind of a godsend compared to that.
I mean, I think our opinion of Slam and Jam was literally, this is good, but we both just suck at it.
Yeah, and to be fair, I was not great at Pat Riley's basketball, but I never felt like I was in control.
No, like the entire chat was on your side with that one.
Yeah, so, but anyways. But yeah, Dick Vitale, I mean, it was made by Time Warner Interactive, so how bad could it possibly be? They made Primal Rage. They made The Lawnmower Man. Do you remember The Lawnmower Man?
Yep. But on that note, guys, we will see you all later.
Bye-bye.